Hey lovelies, it's the blackout. I'm just here relaxing, trying to get this gas out of my stomach. I'm so bloated. It seems like everything I eat or I drink, if it's water or whatever, but I do have a weakness for soda though. That's probably the culprit. It's like I can't breathe. It's like this gas can't get out of my stomach. It's like, ugh. But anyway, long story, TMI. I was here reflecting, thinking, reminiscing back that when I lived in Rancho Cordova, which is East Sacramento, and I was advocating like the CPS stuff with my children, and going to the legislature, which is Ken Cooley at the time. And when I went to go, I said it on one of my other videos, but I have to say it again because it's really troublesome. Because in my belief, it's that he's the one who blocked me. I believe and got me out of Rancho. Because every coffee meetup, I was there in the audience. One of his aides was like, yeah, she's like a foster parent, but really I was really against the removing children for certain reasons, bogus reasons. And at that time, legislator or assemblyman Ken Cooley was appointed chair for Health and Human Services for foster care. And I guess because his daughter of some sort was on drugs, and I get it. But on the other end of the spectrum, I was totally against it in my case, the way the situation handed out. So, or panned out rather. So long story, I remember when I first met him, because he saw me everywhere, and I spoke and stuff, and it was like me and my son, and he was like a little, like I think 2-3 years old. And he had got a pen from the legislator. And he was very smart, my little boy. At the time, he knew a lot of stuff. He was with me everywhere I went. It was like second nature. So long story. And so when the assembly member asked me, Ken Cooley, he said, so you live in Rancho Cordova? And I'm like, yeah. And he was like which part? Because he's from Rancho Cordova, which I already knew. And then I said, oh, off of Zinfandel. And he was like, we're off of Zinfandel. And I said, McGregor. I didn't really get my true address because I used a P.O. box initially, And then he says, we're off of McGregor. I said, oh, off of Whistler. He says, oh, we're off of Whistler, because he knew everywhere. And I said, oh, Coolidge Way, right? So the next thing I know, after I told him all that, there was anonymous complaint about an abandoned car parked in front of the yard, but it wasn't mine, it was my neighbors across the street. Then they would say there was like an old dresser on the side of the house, something like that. Like all of a sudden things started, happening. Then my landlord at the time, I've been there for 5 years, all of a sudden he was slapped with the, like this anonymous complaint. I had to handle it, and which I did, and they just took it off, whatever. And then they slapped him with a bill saying that it's a profit or rental property. He has to pay $100, and how he didn't know that. It would give him a hard time. Actually giving me a hard time. And then that satellite was on the roof, which I didn't know at the time. And then that's when the harassment started. I kind of, not really harassment, but from the legislator, his aide did help me, one of them. Because, no, I would never get any assistance. I wasn't getting any redress. I was getting blacklisted because I was, expressing my concerns regarding to how the court system. But of course, they don't have the jurisdiction, which is true. But there's, they can get on the phone and talk to their buddies. But I believe from that point on, he kind of blocked me in a sense. So, because they kept asking me, do you have a criminal record? I'm like, no, I don't have a criminal record. And then I was like, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm sure. Because, at that time, well, prior to moving to Rancho, I used to work as a contractor, for the federal government and as well as for the state, the prisons. So I was like, huh. But at that time, I really didn't look in too far. I was going through my thing, as usual. So all in all, then I started thinking, I'm listening to another reader as well tonight, and it got me thinking like, huh, that's probably why, because of the surveillance and, there's a number of reasons. I know part of it, it is my family, but for advocating different things and then moving to North Highlands, and then all of a sudden people are looking suspicious, and these, what is it called? Jump lines and smart lines and microphones in my unit and cameras. And this was before I moved in, because there was 3 wires at first, and then the maintenance man pulled 2 of them down, and there was only 1, you know, left. It was a bunch of stuff. So now that I have the contract for John L. Sullivan, who does the, like, surveillance, and they have these specific cars. I'm not going to tell you what kind of cars. I'm going to tell you a little bit later. I got to find the picture. They got these specific cars. They have this particular truck, but you think they're going to different, like, their work, but really in actuality, it's these like the on-site IT people for the managers and the management or the owners of the property. It's like an asset protection, and they unlawfully surveil their tenants. And the contract that I read with John L. Sullivan, because at first they're from what I read, it was like a bogus alarm system or some shit company. It was a front. Well, I got the information. So for namesake, you know, I mean, it could be the dealership, but as far as I'm concerned, a lot of these meth heads and that girl who lived upstairs, who does live upstairs to the left where I used to reside, that had that salad on her patio, she got a car at the time with no income from John L. Sullivan. You know, pretty much brand new. It was used anyway, but still. And she had another car, and she traded in to the same people. So I'm convinced it's the same people. One guy said, no, it's not the same guy. I said, yes, it is. It's John L. Sullivan on it. But of course, there's a common name now. But just for namesake purposes, I believe it's the same person, same company. And then now with Nilo, a lot of the real estate agents and whomever and brokers and all that stuff and meth heads, they're all driving his cars from his dealership. You know, I had compiled a lot of cars and pictures and shit like that. And then also I want to mention yesterday, or no, day before yesterday, I had took a picture, a video of, it was a van, it was Comcast. It was a van, it was a bogus, right? And then I went back to my phone hours later, which I should download it, but you know, I was driving or traveling, and all of a sudden it's gone off my phone. Yep, there's pictures on my phone. They got it because I want to show you guys how these perps, you know, they do when they drive. But overall, I was thinking about, you know, reminiscing back, like, damn. Because all of a sudden, when I told that legislator where I lived, then things started happening, you know, like bogus phone calls and shit like that, you know. So anyways, until next time, you guys, peace.